Just had an amazing conversation with Taylor Jones, who has acquired 100 and I believe 60 short-term rental properties, which is crazy. He actually went through my listings and gave me some room for improvement, some constructive feedback, as some would say. And it was super insightful for me, and I think it's going to be super insightful for you. You're going to want to stay tuned to the end because he drops a ton of knowledge bombs. So with that, let's get into today's episode of the Short-Term Rental Pros podcast. All right, we are live with the Short-Term Rental Pros podcast in person. Taylor got him to come to New York. Well, he probably came for other reasons, but I'm going to say I got him to come to New York to the office for the first in-person episode at the new Short-Term Rental Pro production studios in Dumbo, New York City. Taylor, man, I'm so excited for you to join us today. And why actually are you in New York?
No, here for another real estate event, but it was great to connect and happy to come out in person and kind of break the office in.
Yeah, so since we've had you on several months ago, what's new, man? For those who want to know what's up with Mr. Jones.
Yeah, we've been plugging away and really expanding our done for you service. So kind of what we've built over the last couple of years with our track record, our success is, okay, we clearly know how to find, acquire, underwrite, scale short-term rentals, but how can we help everyday people? You know, we can help big institutions. How can we help retail everyday investors? And so what we've been doing now is me, our head of data, John Bianchi, who I know you've had on before. What we're doing is we're helping investors find their own short-term rental. That pain point of analysis paralysis, I don't know where to look or what's the best thing to buy in a given market. How do I design it? How do I amenitize it? We've been helping investors with a full done-for-you service. So STR Search is the name of that company, and we've been absolutely crazy busy, which is great, in helping people identify, hey, here's my budget, here's my buy box. Ultimately, the two things you can control. What are your preferences? How much cash do you have? And for us, what we're doing is, okay, let's find you the best available short-term rental based on those two factors, because not everybody has an unlimited budget to just spend on any size home with any size amenities. You might be limited. So how do we get the best ROI out of your budget and your preferences? We always kind of do the ice cream reference. Do you like chocolate or do you like vanilla? Do you like nuts or do you like sprinkles? Do you like hot fudge or cherry? And so not everybody's gonna like the same thing when it comes to owning their short-term rental. You know, do you like appreciation or cash flow? Do you like the Southeast? Do you like the West? Do you like mountain? Do you like lake? All those little nuances we individualize with each customer. And then also align with, okay, how do we maximize your budget? Can you afford 6 amenities at this property? Can you only afford 3? Okay, well, what are the best 3 to strategically help you drive the most revenue?
Okay, and let's take a step back. And I think for those who haven't heard episode 1, just give your background to begin with. So
Yes.
Taylor, what makes you able to tell somebody this is a good property, this is a chocolate?
Yeah.
I don't know if chocolate is good or whose preferences is what, but like why? What's
so
your thing?
we've done this over 150 times the last 2 years. So we've helped investors acquire over 150 short-term rentals the last 2 years. So being a part of that many transactions and the track record, the history, the success that we've
Part
had.
of TechVestor.
Yeah.
And we've had, I think C's episode has gone up. So at this point we've had John Bianchi, who's the head of data.
Yep.
We've had Sabrina, the head of operations, managing the properties. We've had C, who's kind of CEO,
yeah,
vision,
overseeing everything. Yep.
big picture guy. We've had Taylor, head of acquisition. So like this property is a good property for this is what you do to it. You know, you add these 5 amenities and you should pull in about this much money. So we've really had the full, I don't know if there's anyone I'm missing. Oh, we've had Mark Lumpkin. I know he's not, he's, is affiliated in terms of, because he works with you guys on
construction and design. Absolutely.
So like actually physically setting up the property. So I feel like we've had pretty much the full gamut.
Spectrum. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think Austin is the one I've been recommending. I haven't hit him up because he's like revenue management.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, so being a part of those transactions from the acquiring phase, which I always kind of say that's kind of like the top of funnel. And if you can buy it right and get it at the right price and it's the right property for the area, you have way more kind of room to screw up on the back end. Not that we want you to not get the best amenities or not get the best design, or even if you're just a below average operator, but you have such an enormous hill to climb if you don't buy it at the right price, you don't buy in the right market, or you don't buy the right product for that market. And that, I think, is why so many people are struggling, is you have to almost be perfect in operations. You have no room for error if you can't get it right up top. And so being at that very first stage, I think it's so critical important that if you can buy it right, you kind of have room to screw up, or you have buffer room. And that's a super important thing, especially as a brand new investor. This is your first short-term rental and purchase. You want to have that buffer room to grow into. And if you're an elite operator, all that margin means is profit in your pocket.
Got it. So we're thinking about things from the context of buying a new property. And that seems to be kind of what's new with you is you're helping, before you were helping investors, but essentially saying, hey, give us cash, let us do our thing. We'll send you the quarterly reports and your dividends and whatnot.
Yep.
But now you're like kind of one-on-one helping specific people from the get-go.
Yep.
But what I want to get at, which, probably a lot of my listeners are people who have existing portfolios. They have, maybe they manage other people's properties, is like, how do you improve existing properties? And I'm going to use this time to, I know I'm going to get ripped here, so this won't all be fun and games, but I want to go through my properties or a couple of them.
Let's go.
And just see, like, rip them apart. Let's see how we can improve them. First, I want to show you the property.
Yep.
Maybe get your opinion on like how you think it is doing in its like current state. And then I'll match that with like the real data.
Perfect.
And then from there, how do we get this better? And then maybe we have, next time Taylor's on, we can hopefully I've put action and have the results to show. So bang, have one of my listings here. This is a property that was launched in November of what year are we in right now?
24.
So it's like end of Q4 2022. We got it up for Christmas. Didn't fully finish the renovation probably until like May of like this last summer. But now it's pretty much fully running. So his first thing he's doing is diving into the description.
Yes. I always curious how people. So big thing here. What I love is you've kind of got the bullet points set up. It's hard to read. Naturally, you got to look at human behavior. When you have these huge, long paragraphs, it turns people off. They skip things. So being able to truly do this, one quick call out I always like to say is Airbnb continues to talk about our use of AI. We're growing AI. We're using AI more. Well, whatever municipality you're in, so it's like, okay, here I am in, Samora. Am I saying that right?
I don't even know.
Okay,
yeah, I think
cool.
so. I think so.
So
no one's corrected me.
Like first thing I would be like, hey, this is the perfect lake house for your family or bonding romantic getaway in Samora. And so any of our listings, we're always dropping that in as often as we can. And then where you also want to correlate that is in your photos. So if we go to our listing.
And this is so I actually got the feedback from someone that don't organize your photos. Like, because how Airbnb gives you the option to put them in each room.
Do not.
Because and I think I just did that where you went in and now we're looking at the living room. You got to scroll all the way down to like find the money shots.
Yeah, no, terrible. Definitely do not let them be assembled. But other thing I was going to say is your photo descriptions. So definitely want to add those in, number one. And in a photo like this, you're not just going to put back of house or backyard.
Yeah.
You got to kind of tell a story here.
We provide tons of games and blah, blah, blah.
I mean, a great space to hang out with the family here in Samora. Now, you don't need to put the city in every single one. But the other key thing is, spend time in our amazing hot tub. So the other thing they're going to start doing is using AI. So when you look at which categories do you show up at? So some people are like, man, I've got 4 categories, because Airbnb was big with the category release. I think it was like 6 months or 9 months ago now. Well, all that's picked up is by AI. So whether it's amazing pools, game room, cabin, all these things, it's a lot of AI triggers. There's 1.8 million listings in the US and 4 or 5 million across the world. They don't have anybody manually opening every listing and counting, well, which box does it go in? Again, they're using AI. So the more you can quote unquote hack the system, and again, it's not like you're lying and saying you have all these features when you really don't. So to me, that's what I would really be after is adding those things in. So great fireplace.
Oh, I'll put it back. Sorry, we're both controlling the mouse here. I wanted to take notes, but I guess I can't do that.
Yeah,
I have to take mental. Yes. I'll have to listen and take notes after.
Yeah.
That's fun.
So I always tell people is 4 or more amenities is always the goal in the title. So, Paradise, the Hiko.
That's the lake.
Perfect. Yep. So that is quote unquote an amenity is the lake, the hot tub, you are lakefront, large dock. Like your listing shouldn't be, I tell people is opinionated adjectives, luxurious, beautiful place, all this stuff. Get rid of adjectives. Your opinion doesn't freaking matter. What you need to do is you're a presenter of facts.
I like the word haven. Like if you're going to add one of those kind of opinion things, you want to make it one word.
Yeah.
So like haven is just, if you're going to say something, just consolidate it into a single word.
Yeah. So you definitely want to make sure like 4 more amenities is always the goal. I know you run out of, we run out of characters. So I do love though that, let's go to the exterior photos here. I do love that hero photo. What I'd be curious is, well, lakefront's the selling point. I'd be curious too, especially if there was more amenities here.
I agree.
Is how this photo would run, especially if this was number 1 and then number 2 was the actual lake itself. It's actually a pretty cool photo too. Is this on your property?
Yeah, it is. And the thing that's unique, or why I bought this property, was because it just has an insanely flat backyard. At this particular lake, and I could show you our other houses, they're all cool because they have great views, but the backyard is just so slanted that you can't really do anything. And this is like the whole lake. It's not just the houses in our portfolio. So I was like, this thing, like what I tell people is like, if you want a house that is going to have longevity and like no matter what is going to win, it has to have some like distinguishing characteristic that can't be recreated.
Yep.
So this house, I got it 750, which like to me was about as high as I'd more like higher than I'd be comfortable with, but I know this house over the long run is going to be a good investment.
Yeah, you've got a competitive advantages or moats that we always talk about that somebody can't clone this. You can clone design, you can clone amenities, and sure, you still need to execute, but flat backyard you can't clone.
Exactly.
Lakefront you can't clone, so there's things like that are competitive advantages. I mean, off the cuff too, I'd almost wonder, you've got a sweet photo here. I don't know if this is real or edited. Again, you can always edit your photos. I'd be curious what an edited sunset, photo
on
here would do.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, little trick we've.
I don't know if it faces west, but does it matter?
Nah, you don't want to over exaggerate it, but I do see there is great sky opportunities.
I think it's south facing.
Yeah, I mean, if you did a cool sky thing, we've done that before, and I know there's great people on Fiverr who, it's like $5 or $6 a photo.
Yeah.
They'll do a great editing. I'll tell you, it's really worth it.
I usually edit the grass. That's like
that's a good call too.
A big thing. Like this photo, the grass is definitely highly edited. Now the grass actually looks good.
Yeah, but sometimes based on season, you could get a little browning. Totally get it. Yeah, you don't want to lie to guests, but it's also like, hey, could it be this way at some point? Yeah, it could. There could be a good sky. There could be good editing there.
People don't need to think about, okay, where does the sun rise and fall?
No, none of that.
It was a weird day. It was a solstice.
Yeah. So little nuances here. Big fan of the cord cover.
Yeah.
It's like $15.
Or just Photoshop it out.
One of the two. Yep, 100%. That's what I'd be looking at there is get the cord cover to match. So going through here, each photo on that front.
And I don't think just we designed this like ourselves. We didn't use a third-party designer. And at this time, I was like, all right, I want a place with focus on the exterior features. Inside just has to be good enough.
Yep.
Now in hindsight, I'm like, damn, I wish I would have done some accent walls, not just make it clean and modern.
Yeah, the other cool thing about editing, you could edit out so you could see the reflection and glare on the TV. So that'd be like something on an editing spot too. You would want to get done.
Or put some Netflix on there or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Other good solid photos though, again, showing the space. It's a good photo to kind of really show people the high vaulted ceiling. Same thing, you can edit out a lot of the stuff there. Let's see here. What do we got? 3, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay. I'm always kind of the big, our team will tell them the dining room Nazi here is, can you sit enough to eat, or do you have to eat in shifts? So the most frustrating thing I see is a dining table that has 6 chairs and the property sleeps 10 people. I go, well, or 4 people just like eating in the second rotation. So it's a huge thing. And in some markets, you actually get punished for it more. In a lot of very family, multi-generational travel destinations, you will get crushed and people don't realize it. So big thing we've been making a push for is just more 8, 10, 12, 14 person dining room tables. Sometimes you got to put 2 together, because you might just do the math and be like, okay, it's like, $4,000 for this huge 14 person one, or I just stick 2 together for $1,200 each and go, okay, let's do that. But you can still make up for it in this long thing here. So I won't completely get you on that one.
We'll give it a B.
No, there is at least the room to all eat together in one all-in-one service. So a lot of good stuff in that regard. Yes, the bedrooms, like you said, you could have more accents here. What I'd be curious is how much.
Could have a slide on the bunk
Yeah,
beds.
there we go. But what does that do from the total market competition? Does winning with amenities and location like gonna drive you more, or can location push it over? Without fully studying this market, those are things that you always look for. Is yes, of course it'll help, but how much is truly based on your market.
Yeah.
So of course, better interior design would help you in your bedrooms, but it's like by how much? Would have notes we studied the market. Same thing on the bedroom here. Edit or drop down. Um, again, all solid, could be updated, but does the trick. I love the high occupancy again coming out to the lake. Great exterior shot. Um,
I really
great.
like that last one. This used to be the cover up until like last week when I put it on LinkedIn. I said, what do we
Okay,
like, one or two? And people said two. So
okay,
I listened to
okay.
LinkedIn.
No, this is I mean this one isn't bad either. And I think what you can do is just kind of ride the hot hand. That's what we say. If the bookings slow down in one, you just flip it to the other.
Yeah.
Kind of A/B test, go in there. Instant call out is, and again, unless there's like a burn notice in the area, is you had a fire pit location. Where's that one at? Pushed off to the side there?
Yeah. So it's over there, but we actually moved it. The neighbor over here wasn't, too happy with people at the fire, at night. So we just moved it. The other house is an Airbnb on the other side. So we just put it on that side. They obviously aren't going to complain about it. And then
Okay.
actually the other house on the other side of this guy's also an Airbnb. So he's like triple sandwich.
Yeah.
We built a privacy fence for him just to, help ease his
Yeah.
concerns.
Yeah. I mean, things I look at here where you could add some really great value would be, a miniature golf area.
Yeah.
I think a great kids playground would be super huge too. So if we're looking at a miniature golf area, we're probably talking 8 to 12 grand. A nice playground that isn't the rinky-dink one is probably 3 to 4. And I think little things like that, that's just great ROI from like, cool, how can we help more kids appeal to those families more? Those are, I think, really great things. You've got the cornhole. You could also even mix in like ring toss. People don't realize it's like super cheap
Yeah.
because you're building in the sand pit with the wood box behind it, and then boom, the steel stake. So when you got horseshoes going there, it's a pretty easy, affordable amenity that you could probably DIY it for like $600 or hire labor for $1,000 to
Hmm.
install it, because there's 2 sand pits with some wood and a metal stake, and then ultimately buy your tools and you're good to go. So those are things I think from how do we fill the yard? That's kind of a big thing that we've kind of learned, is if there's too much green space, you should get punished for it because it's not filled completely.
Yeah.
So I think, what I wonder here is how much are you being punished by not having more in that yard? And that's where I look at easy
So
things
it's like I'm saying, oh, it's a positive that we have a big flat backyard, but you're like, well, however, the flip side of that is it looks just empty and weird.
Yep, and that does, we found, hurt the ROI, and so filling that space is truly a better use of it, which is why I look at like if you did 3 holes. So here I wouldn't do the like rectangle miniature golf. I would actually do holes, because then you're just going to fill more space, even though it might be the same square footage on paper. It's going to look like it's more full if you did 3 holes that are kind of crooked shaped like that. You put a playground in. We always love accenting it with a border, not just dropping it on, but spending that extra money to maybe like put in a gravel and or mulch base. Then it's accented, and when it looks like it's an intentional amenity rather than, hey, I just threw the playground set here. It's a big ROI. Other thing you could do that's super affordable that I think would be great here is a fenced-in dog area. So people love their
Interesting.
pets. Are you pet friendly?
Oh, of course.
Okay, okay, yeah, yeah.
I manage properties for homeowners on the lake, and they're not pet
Oh,
friendly.
and they're probably struggling.
Well, yeah, and then they all were like February. Every single one who wasn't pet friendly came to me in like February, March, and they said, "Hey, we don't have a lot of bookings. What's up?" And I said, "There's 100 Airbnbs on the lake. I showed them. I said the occupancy for February, March is like 10%. Of that 10%, majority of it is bringing pets. So the only people who are coming here pretty much are bringing pets, and your property is not pet friendly. Like that's off the bat why you're not. I mean, they're actually pretty like it's funny. Like this lake, I show them there's 100 Airbnbs on the lake at this point. When we were the first house that I managed was like number 4. So within a few years, it's went from like 4 to 100. And if you look at the list from revenue, it's literally the properties we own are like 4 of the top 5, and the properties we manage are like 8 of the top like 14.
Yep.
So
Yeah, but I think a really cool like thing would be a dog run, and you would like you'd be filling the space without. So you would almost go with the 4 foot white picket fence is probably easiest, or that
yeah.
4 foot low. You don't need to go get a big 6 foot. It's gonna block the view.
So just like a white picket fence.
Yeah, or or a small wood or something like that, or you could do the black metal, but you have
That would
that
also
there.
help because that was one issue. We're responsive to our neighbors. Like
Yeah.
we go above and beyond.
Yeah.
And we built a privacy fence. And one of the reasons for that was like dogs.
Yep.
Like let the homeowners know their dogs can't go past a certain point. But it would honestly have been cheaper just to do a white little dog fence.
So I look at, you could build in like whatever the space will give you, a 20 by 12 or a 30 by 20, whatever. You put the fence up. And then at that little entrance, you could get, like, I'm sure they sell them online, those little like dog like welcome signs. So that you make it intentional. If you just fenced it off and said, hey, this is a dog area, again, it doesn't do it as much as like just drop in the playground set. But if you intentionally put that border in there, you intentionally put like a dog thing. And if you've ever been to some like public dog parks, sometimes there's like little things the dogs can crawl through. So you could get creative and see what you could find maybe on Facebook Marketplace or something. And they got like the little tire or the ramp you could put in there. And again, as long as it's easy for your mow guy to get in, get out, do all those things, I think you have a huge opportunity to fill that, and definitely like reshoot it with like a drone shot. And I think you could be like, wow, look at this aerial shot. That would be super huge too.
Yeah, and that would be because there's an area like the septic fields in the back. So there's like an area that we can't really, and I wanted to get your input on an idea. So like part of me, I always want to do another property. Like I always want to do another one. Like I want to do another one, but limited by resources.
Of course.
There's only so much I can do. And like with this, I looked at pretty much like every lake in not even North Carolina, but pretty much just southeast. Like there is only a couple lake houses that have a pickleball court in their backyard. There is like several, there's probably like 12 that have them, but maybe they're in like the side or the front or indoor. Like there's some at like Norman and Charlotte are just behemoth houses that have indoor basketball courts and indoor pickleball. But there's very few that like on the lake has a pickleball court.
That's cool.
And this house, I went into I actually was in North Carolina the other day. I went into the lake authority and talked to them. It actually can have a pickleball court in the backyard. There's like just enough space that works.
Yeah, I mean, I would for sure explore it. My gut is you're probably gonna get quoted 22 to 28 grand. That's like pretty much par for the course there to get the base, the cured concrete, the painted, everything looking good. Go bright colors. That's why I tell people.
Do you do sport courts?
No. So what we just found is, yes, it's cheaper, but it doesn't give you the same feel. It doesn't hold up as well. So we'll do a nice, really good cured concrete with a paint and then a seal on it. Less ongoing maintenance, yes, more upfront, but it's kind of one of those you spend more today to save more down the road.
Yeah.
And you save yourself operational headache, and it's going to be more true to performance. So kind of checks all those boxes after it's installed, rather than the sport court where they're like, doesn't quite bounce the same. The guests don't love it. It gets torn up easier. It gets separation versus the cured concrete. You just get the really good stuff, and then, paint, seal it, everything like that. So that's really what I'd be targeting from that front. So.
Interested. Okay. That was because I was actually looking at the sport courts, but
we already done it. And you're going to regret it as soon as you're done. So we've done enough of them to know that it's a big issue. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of all the changes that I could see here, and especially if you're holding this asset, you could just continue to improve. And that's what I think people can realize is, you do the most you can with your budget on day one and you launch, and then you always look for, can I always add more to it? And so we're even helping clients, with our, a lot of our STR search clients is, hey, okay, this is your budget. We're going to buy you the best available property. That also might mean that, hey, you have room in your backyard to add 5 amenities, but your budget today only allows for 2. But we know you can grow into this, and next year you can add $20,000 more worth of amenities, and the year after that you can add that pickleball court. But you can grow into that property. It's, hey, can you add enough amenities today to drive revenue, cover your debt service, be happy, and then you'll just continue to increase your ROI over the next 2-3 years, the next 24, 36 months as you add more, recycle your cash flow, or save more from your W-2. And that, I think this is a perfect example of a property you could always grow into, which you're already doing.
Yeah, and that was it. Like initially did not have the hot tub because wanted it up by Christmas. So did whatever it took to get it up then. And then after Christmas was like, all right, I want the hot tub. The deck, that deck you see
Yep.
over there, which is this, I would normally not recommend folk to like build a deck. I would say focus on amenities. I just thought for this particular house, it like needed it. Like it looked like naked
Yep.
without it. Like it looked weird. So built both of the decks on the side of the property were put in after the fact, got them, fully permitted, which meant
Yeah, of course.
took months to do, but didn't have like what you see right now until probably like June. So the booking or the lead time for this lake is 3 months for like June,
Yeah.
July, August for the summer, which is probably pretty common for like a summer
Most places,
peak
yep.
season. So last summer we didn't do as well because it just the listing was not as good. But this summer we're starting to get like filled up at the rates I want. But I guess the question, like, what would you, if I'm telling you I bought this like 750, I guess what would you estimate revenue on something like this? And then I'll fill in the actual, and then I'll say, all right, based off if I make the changes that you said, what would you ballpark?
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing you got to be doing, some decent six figures here without like truly seeing what the top ROI is and what people are willing to spend in the area. It's a little tough to throw out, but I would figure you could at least push, good healthy six figures here, even as a 3 bedroom in a given market. I feel like it's definitely possible that it can be done here.
Gotcha. So I'm gonna pull up Mr. Price Labs just because
Yeah.
I don't want to be wrong. I
Yeah.
admittedly did not write down the numbers ahead of time.
No, dude, we're a lot of times live stuff is the best here.
Yeah, so we got this property live. It's showing us, yeah, December of 2022. So pretty much just for Christmas.
Yep.
So you can see December 2022 did 1.4K.
Yep.
Then, with January, February, March, as I mentioned, last winter did all right. I think we had some longer term bookings while we were doing construction.
Yep.
And then the summer, did all right.
There we go.
17,000 June, 16,000 July, 15,000 August. But I thought those should be like 25, like almost 30K months, like $1,000 a night. That's when I underwrote the place. I was like, this is $1,000 night July home, or it should be. So we got the place, as I said, I think May or June, got the marketing. But this year we have the full marketing. So you can already see, what are you seeing, like the difference with April, May?
Yeah,
looking like?
you're already like almost about 40 to 70% greater. So you've got a shot that if you could continue to push June, July, August, what like you said, that hey, 15, 16, 17 was last year, that 20 plus is in range, no doubt. So
So let's look. So last year we did 107K.
I figured it did low six figures. Okay,
Yep.
perfect.
And then this year,
Really the back half of that year, is truly where you can, really cut your teeth and make some money. And if you can get those good holiday bookings too, especially because, hey, we've got more amenities, there's more family gathering stuff here. We improved. No, there's good opportunities here, man. So love that.
yeah, we're seeing the ADRs. So the ADRs for this summer, last year we were at $700 a night.
Beautiful.
Now we're pushing 800-900.
I love it.
So, but based off what you said, so should do about 125K this year. I would say the one variable is September. I don't know about. There was a music festival and like there's a big raceway around there that had its nationals the last 3 years. Doesn't look like they're having it this year.
Ooh.
So September was the best month of the year, second best month of the year last year. Not so sure this year, but assuming, September's roughly the same, should do 125. But if I do those things you talked about, let's ignore the pickleball, but
Yeah.
fenced in dog backyard, fill that space better with the little games and take new drone photos. What do you think I could push to?
Man, I feel like it's a two-pronged approach of not only could you potentially probably push, call it 135, 140, but you also, and this is something me and, John Bianchi have started talking about, is how do you start hedging yourself in the downturn?
Yeah.
And, at some point we will see a slowdown that's worth noting. We're not going to see a stoppage. Like that's just delusional to think that. But how do you hedge yourself? And what you're looking at is how do I gobble all the other bookings? So from all the other lakefront homes, when let's say there's 100 and there's 100 people are booking 4th of July, everybody's fully booked. But let's say in a recession now 20% fall off. So now 20 aren't going to get booked. You're like, okay, how do I make sure I'm in the top 80? Now, are you probably in the top 80 now? Yes. But how do you make sure you're booked by the people spending the most money? So of those 80, the bottom 20 we know are just vacant. But now how do we make sure that you're pulling in those? And that's where a lot of the amenities is juice your revenue when times are good, but also keep you like either flat so you don't drop during the recession. That I think is the critical point.
Absolutely. And I think, yeah, it's funny you say that because, like, for this particular property, and kind of, I know you guys like have a lot of properties in your markets. So you guys are like, all right, we're within the 60th to 90th percentile.
Yeah.
Whereas like I shoot this particular property is like number one or
Yeah.
number two. So yeah, the prices I'm getting, I'm pricing peak season above the 90th percentile.
I love it.
But it's funny. I like to look at like the last year bookings versus this year and just like really compete against myself and be like, what I get booked out last year? Like, am I beating it this year? And yeah, when times are bad, that's where it's like you really look at your year over year data.
Yep.
And you're like, how do I keep or sustain?
Yep, exactly. And that's what some of these additions are, is just not getting complacent so that you can people still see the value in the affluent traveler. So again, let's just use that 100 example, only 80 go this year, 20 sit vacant. How do you get those top 1, 2, or 3 to still spend the same amount of money, even though quote unquote it is a recessionary environment? And the more value you can offer them, that's the critical thing. They're looking at that $1,000 a night ADR and saying, is it worth it? Well, I've got the fenced-in dog area. We're going to bring the two family dogs, little Frodo and whatever, or Fido, whatever the hell the dog's name is. So that I think is a critical thing, is having the, horseshoe pit area, having the miniature golf, where they can just look at me like, man, my kids are so occupied. There's so much value here. That critical word, that's how people are justifying prices. Am I getting the value for this property? Now you can still command that same high ADRs regardless of the recessionary environment. Then when things are good, now you've got multiple people willing to pay $1,000 a night and you're like, sweet, we're cooking up.
Yeah, and also people then quit. That's when the times are bad. That's when people
those bottom
get out.
20, yeah, maybe not all 20 drop off, but maybe 10 of them do.
Well, we're not even seeing a recessionary environment right now, but people are dropping off, which is good.
Yep.
That's, and I think that, 80, I think like this last quarter wasn't like the first time that demand went up higher than supply.
Yeah.
Like the first time in 4 years.
I saw in February that there was the first time ever. So that was a huge word.
Which we love that. If you guys are listening, can say, well, I guess let's transition now to, I guess, someone who's looking at dropping a list.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
So just for context, I have a property for sale. I actually did sell one of our properties back in December. The property we sold was a partnership property. I was like it was people who had invested in a deal I led before, and it was the first they led a deal and I put in the smallest amount I could. So I wasn't really like emotionally attached to it. And when we got it, I thought it was like an okay deal, but it wasn't like my thesis. My thesis was big houses, multiple families. It was a small cabin. So I didn't really think there was room for it to run, and the market had appreciated, and we happened to have a 5-year loan term that was gonna, it was a balloon. Yep. So it was like we either had to sell or refi, and just made sense to sell. This is a different story. So we sold. We bought that house for $433, completely furnished. Sold it at like $545 a year and a half later. Nothing to write home about, but a good investment.
Yep.
This property we bought. So this is me and 2 partners. We're all a third. We bought this in May of 2022. Or March of 2022. So what are we in 2024 now?
Yep.
So about 2 years ago, we bought it for $575. Initially, when we bought this house, it was because we bought another one in the area that I thought was like a home run. We bought a house for $515. The first year did $130.
Damn, nice.
So then, the guys were seeing that. Like we had the winter bookings for that. And they're like, shit, like we got to get another one. And in that like 4 or 5 month time period, like prices had ballooned in Florida.
They shot up, baby.
They shot up. So we got this one at $575. I underwrote initially like 100 at a $575 purchase. I think we'll look at the actual data.
Yes.
I don't want to be wrong, but.
Yeah. So a couple call outs here on this listing is it's got the bones to be successful. But like initial easy addition. So I'm going to approach this one from, if I'm buying this, how can I spend the least to get the most in new revenue out of this property? So first one is this entryway. in this market, Florida, especially, bright colors
Yeah,
wins.
you need to pop.
And I look here and I'm like, this is a sea of brown and like depression.
I got that off Facebook, that couch off Facebook
Oh,
Marketplace for like $200.
beautiful. Yeah. So that I think is like instantly maybe a huge accent wall here. It definitely needs repainted white, but like some sort of pop of bright colors, brighter rug. I'd even consider repainting the door here
Door.
on the inside. Your kitchen cabinets can stay. Like I'm not a big fan of throwing money in the kitchen, in particular. So, you've got this here, but I think you need like, again, more color around it.
And just
This,
for context, we're looking at the for sale listing right now.
yes,
So
yes.
we're on Zillow. We're not on
Okay.
Airbnb.
Yeah, so
So
we're
this is not the photo order I would have went with on Airbnb.
yes, yes, guys, just so we all are aware. Good call out. Yeah, so again, you could do furniture like brighter colored chairs, accent walls here, a rug with more color to it. Instantly going to elevate this listing to stand out because there's a ton of listings that look like this. Kitchen's fine. Maybe you paint the cabinets white if you really wanted to drop 4 or 5 grand. Don't think it's necessary. Same thing in here. Um, too dark, too brown. We need pops of color in here, new drapes,
We did
new.
like a Bali themed house, like kind of
Yeah, it's not
casual.
quite that design. Same thing, a brighter rug. Bathrooms are fine. Don't need to spend money. Again, maybe brighten these up here. I would do with some accents. So similar carry theme to this bedroom. This one's actually moving in the right direction. It just needs better on the back. So continuing to scroll through here, this is where we start to get nice pops of color. I love this. Like, it's like, okay, we're finally starting to get to that where I think we can truly drive better revenue. Bright pops of color in the backyard with this whole tropical oasis. But this is the photo that I like loved and cringed at the same time was I have no amenities besides a pool. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay,
And a tiki hut, but that I don't know if you call that an amenity.
it's
It's
not
not a
like
game.
it's a cool accent feature, but yeah, it's not like an amenity that
We
people are going
do
to sort out.
so on Airbnb, the listing, we do have like the big Connect Four and the corn or the cornhole.
Yes.
But this was recent photos. The games were in the garage.
Yep. So things I look at here that could be great additions is, having a miniature golf area. So you could do like something in here. This is my first thing. It's South Florida. It's Florida in general. Easily 8 to 12 grand. You get great little mini golf setup. So that was number one. Number two, and I know this photo doesn't quite show it, but if we go back to, here, there is room which you could drop in. It's like a playground set or something like that. So that's number two that I was looking at from an addition. Now you have this long skinny area. So it's like, how can I use a good ROI here? And one thing I thought is like outdoor bowling would be
Yeah,
great.
that'd be perfect. Just flat.
Which is going to be roughly around 4 grand to do that right. So if I instantly come in and say, okay, how much ROI or how much ROI can I drive in additional revenue versus what I'm spending? So if I look at, okay, outdoor bowling is going to cost me about 4 grand. Let's just say miniature golf was 10. I'm up to 14. I get a, $3,000 playground set. So I'm up to 17. Those interior fixes is probably, 15, you know. So if we round it up, even call another 3K buffer, and that's what I was commenting on social with you is like, man, I think an extra 35 grand here probably drives an additional 15K plus in revenue to your top line. And so you're looking at like, man, how do I make sure I stand out so that this revenue number doesn't go down? But then also, how do I increase it? I think doing things like that are going to instantly take you from wherever you did do, which we're going to look up here in a second. And I think instantly adds a minimum $15,000 or more. So not only can you continue to collect when times are good, but it's also going to stave you off from new supply, which unlike that North Carolina listing, this one's going to definitely see here in South Florida far more supply.
You guys, yeah, I was giving an example, I think, of this in our other house and showing like our first year data and the next year data, going over the supply in the market. And I was looking at random houses that like looked nice from their photos that popped up. And then one of them I clicked, I was like, oh, Sabrina,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, so new competition, having it be tougher.
which Sabrina's the head of the management and operations, which is why her face is the one on the listings.
Yep.
But essentially thinking, oh, Taylor, that too.
Yes,
The whole
yes, yes,
team.
yes.
That's why part of the reason this place isn't doing as well.
Yeah,
Thank
let's
you.
let's check out what the rev here on this property.
Sure. And then to give context, so that Tiki Hut you see, the one in our listing photos is technically a different Tiki Hut because the city came in and we said we had an unpermitted Tiki Hut, so we had to rebuild it with Native Americans because they're the only ones allowed to build Tiki
Oh
Huts
my
apparently.
gosh.
So there is like a 2 month period where we had to pull it offline. Just for some context, where you're gonna see that in a second.
Uh,
What is this one called? Sorry, when you have these things on Price Labs, it's great. You don't have to deal with the Price Labs and the hospitable and any of
no,
that stuff.
not my
You just
problem.
deal with the fun stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
Uh,
that's
okay, so sorry, this is the calendar, but let me go portfolio analytics, listings. And just for context, we're on Price Labs. This is the software I use to not only price, but also see what the market's doing. Price Labs is super powerful for those who
yes. Big fans of Price Labs.
got it. So we're gonna go right here. So I'm gonna go back. So what I'll show you is our first 365 days, which I believe was probably like May 2000. Oh, it shows me it was May 13th,
Yep.
and we'll go May 13th, 2023. I passed that.
We blew past that, baby.
Yeah. So we did
Yeah, 110.
110, which yeah, my underwriting when we got the property, I was like, I think it can do like 100 to 110
Yep, perfect.
was what I thought. And then this past year, let's go last year, we did 92. However, the big drop off, if you see, was this period I was talking about
Yep,
earlier.
I see that right there.
So
Pulling it offline.
yeah, we had to pull it offline. And so essentially, the city, you're supposed to get a business license. In order to get the business license, you have to have everything permitted. We whatever. I didn't know the Tiki Huts had to be Native American built, so we had to pull up the listing and everything offline while we dealt with that situation. But we dealt with it. Our Christmas lead time was pretty shitty, so kind of screwed our November, December too. However, if you look, our February, March of this year is identical
Yep.
to what it was during its best February, March. So we're pretty much back to business as usual.
Yep.
So we're probably back to about that 110.
Yeah, and that's where I look at like I think those changes easily push this to a 125 plus property, like for the next buyer. Is
Which, if you're buying at a 745K
gives you some
purchase
room to
price,
start getting some
yeah,
good cash flow. The other thing that I think is actually really strong that not a lot of people see, and this is next level stuff here, is average length of stay. So this is strong. In your first year, I actually looked at it in mental note. It was like 4.1. You guys are doing 4.4. Typically, like what people aren't realizing is that you have less turnovers now. So typically, I would have expected you to be around low threes. So
in the length of stay. And I would say that's also my revenue management strategy
yeah,
along the board has been to do like longer length of stay discounts to make sure that my weeks are filled up and I'm not just being weekend sabotaged,
yeah.
which is a lot of times what happens to hosts is like they look at their calendar and you just see Friday, Saturday booked like for the whole month and then nothing else booked.
So this is what I'm going to tell people is 70, let's just do 70% occupied. That's 255 nights. So if I'm averaging, let's say 3.2 average length of stay, I have 80 turnovers. So if my cleaning charges me $200, I have a $16,000 cleaning bill that I have to pay for. Now, ultimately, yes, you're charging the guests, but it does still cost you. Now let's take that same 365 times 70% occupancy is 255 nights, but now instead of times 3.2, let's divide it by 4.49. We only have 57 turnovers now.
And so you're saving on cleaning.
So now that
Your
times
bottom
$200, yeah,
Mhm.
you just saved $4,500 to the bottom line. And I don't think what people realize is that's actually like going to significantly affect you. Anytime you can bring an additional $4 to $5 grand. So if you can achieve the same 110 or 125, but do it with less turnovers, you will statistically bring more to the bottom line because you're going to have less expenses, less also, turnover related costs besides just cleaning and just turning the unit, the laundry, the utility waste, the water, all those things. So bringing an additional 4,500 to the bottom line. I don't think that like a lot of people probably don't even look at that and take two notes, but
it's actually,
somebody who's been doing in this space very well, it goes, wow, that's actually a really good number.
Yeah, and I think I want to add to that. So I have three apartments. Well, I have 5 apartments that I rent and re-rent. 3 of them are in one building, and it's just 2 bedroom, 1 bath apartments. Nothing special. We charge $100 per cleaning, and our average length of stay is like 3 nights. And
Oh,
Yeah, but I'm looking at or like 2 point something nights.
Yeah.
So if you do that, we're charging on average 100 something a night. So our cleaning fee is like 25-30% of our revenue,
Yeah.
which is high.
Yeah.
And
You get eaten up.
yeah, so I'm like, all right, we need to like somehow figure out, we got to cut this in half or we're just going to let go of these apartments. So first order business is like cleaners, not $100. Can you do $70? All right, that didn't work. Can we hire one cleaner full time who just pay them, whatever, $25 an hour? And does that save us money? So that's like the conversations we're having right now with our cleaners is like, how can we, like, we're just not going to keep these unless we can get our cleaning expenditure
Oh,
lower.
yeah.
Which is, I know you guys have such scale that like little things like that really, really add up for you.
Yeah, people don't realize that all the levers you can pull when you're truly, doing everything, and little bits matter. So
So
I like your process.
increasing length of stay, that's like one aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, trimming costs per booking per lead, however you can do that, like super critical. So no, you guys are on the right track. But no, that's it's really impressive to see. So it's always great seeing other operators in the space and things like that. So man, this was great.
Yeah, and
I love
people,
it.
and I think I know I follow you on Twitter, and there's a lot of people who are thought leaders in the space who are just like they're not in the data like
No,
this. Like they don't have any idea like why their property is doing X, Y, or Z or anything like that. They don't frankly care.
no,
But like I legitimately, I'm like, I'm on like every month I'm looking, I'm like, what's wrong here with this property? What like, oh, okay. Like what happened last year? What happened this year? And thinking about how can I improve things for the future, which seems like you're, same thing. You're always like, where are things going? How can we get there?
yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. Well, do you want to conclude here? Like with some last minute like little tips, tricks, nuggets
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something?
totally. Yeah, yeah, Taylor, man. Let's give all the value. I'm
Yeah,
taking notes. I've got the mouse again. I can
yes,
take my notes.
you've got control. I mean, truly, I think when, we're really looking at these opportunities, and we always say is, okay, when times are great, which is really what the majority of people are only thinking about, like, cool, you're good, but
Which
hedging
is
for,
funny because you're saying right now times are great, but a lot of people are like right now times are terrible.
yeah,
But you're like times are great.
yeah, and if it gets worse than times are now, and I don't think people realize that if it dips below where times are now, you need to be able to account and hedge for that. And so all those things are super critical. And that's what we say is how do you differentiate? How do you build you a moat, whether it's acquiring the new property or taking what you have and adding to it? And I think if you're struggling, the key is improve operations, but sometimes that might be investing more in those assets. And that's where you really need to make sure it's like, what are those things I can spend? How can I differentiate, brighten up the colors, revamp the photos, add in certain amenities that are going to be in a high ROI? And like we talked about today, like taking the pickleball court out of the, big North Carolina one, none of those things were that crazy. The dog run can be done for under, $7,000. The horseshoe pit is $1,000. Giant chess is another one we didn't talk about, which you can do for right
Oh
around a
yeah,
thousand
I did
bucks.
that. I did that the first time on.
Yeah.
I won't show you this listing now because there is my newest listing. I think I did follow a lot of the best practices that you said I didn't follow
Yeah.
in the previous listings. Sorry, keep going. And while you're doing this, I want to show my overall portfolio stats, and
Yes.
so we can dive into those for a second, just
Yeah.
talking about times good, times bad,
Yeah.
whatnot. But yeah, what else we got?
Yeah, so doing those great little things, like I said, miniature golf's always going to be 8 to 12 grand depending on size. Nice playground sets for 3 to 4 grand. Again, please don't ever get the rinky dink ones for 1 to 2. Like they just don't hold up. They get beat up, and they're just not as like great for kids. So spend more. I mean, we've spent up to 5, 6, or 7, but there's some good options in that 3 to 4 grand range. And I think really that's what's going to help people differentiate, stay afloat, drive more revenue now. But then ultimately, if we do enter a larger recessionary environment than maybe we are today, how do you stay flat versus going down or potentially even bump up a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. So those are all great. Write those down. Times are good. Maybe don't think about them as much, but if you do think about those when times are bad, you're setting yourself up the best way possible. But yeah, so right here, this is my year over year data.
Love it.
So we can see, the revenue, the average length of stay, number of bookings, booking window, occupancy, revenue per available room, average daily rate, and the number of active listings. So I went up 5 listings this past year. However, I'm trying to think of the best way to extrapolate this. but essentially doing better with higher length of stays across the
Well,
portfolio.
I think these two are your best is your RevPAR. So even though you have obviously more rooms available, your revenue per available room is up, $8.86. So that's huge. So that's going to take into account whether you added 15 new listings or 50 or 5. And then also you're adding almost half a day to your average length of stay, which is going to, at minimum, even if your RevPAR was flat, having that up half a night, I could tell your bottom line is going to be better, assuming like everything else was
Sure.
equal there. So those are like actually really great stats. So those first two right there, average length of stay and RevPAR, I think are super critical in bringing more cash to your bottom line. In addition to just, hey, you grew the portfolio. Sure, growing top line with more listings, of course, but those are I think key metrics that are going to tell you year-over-year performance for your pocketbook.
Absolutely. Well, guys, this has been awesome. I'm excited to have Taylor back. So maybe look through things a year from now and see, all right, we took what he said. This is because of what he said. We made X, Y, and Z changes, and this is how it's affected our pocketbook. So, Taylor, for those who maybe didn't listen to your last episode, where can they find you if they want to keep up with all the gems you're putting out daily?
Yeah, sure. Hang out on Twitter or X now at Mr. Jones STRs. Follow me, Taylor Jones on LinkedIn, at Mr. Jones STRs on Instagram as well. So
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks, man, for coming today. And thanks for everybody tuning in to the Short Term Rental Pros podcast.
thank you guys.